Have you ever imagined that America would ask companies like Ford and General Motors to immediately stop making cars and start producing bombs and missiles? What happened in the last few hours hasn't happened since World War II. Leaked American reports admit and reveal what's hidden. The missile stockpile that America built over years was wiped out by Iran in just 40 days. But the disaster isn't just here. The disaster is that the strongest navy in history, with 8 million tons of steel, stood helpless against small Iranian boats that cost no more than a used car. So today, we will reveal to you the Iranian trap that drained Washington, and why Trump is now begging for calm, while Netanyahu, of course, will not allow him to make any deal with Iran. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Dear viewers, peace be upon you and God's mercy and blessings, and welcome to today's new episode with us, God willing. As part of our opinion series, which we always dedicate to keeping up with the latest developments in this global conflict and introducing the Middle East region between Iran and the Epstein Alliance. Today, dear viewers, we begin this episode with this very important report which carries very significant implications. The report published by the American newspaper The Wall Street Journal, which confirmed that America, after this war against Iran, is now moving to convert some American industrial companies from companies that produce civilian products, such as cars, into companies that produce weapons and military equipment. The newspaper confirmed that America held talks that brought together senior officials from the U.S. Department of Defense with top officials from several civilian companies. Among them, for example, is General Motors, and also the famous Ford company, the American Ford Motor Company. The goal of these talks is that the Pentagon wants to convert these companies or involve these companies and their industrial capabilities, such as machinery, workers, and so on, in producing ammunition and weapons for the American forces. So America chose these civilian companies because it wants to address the situation quickly, meaning to shift rapidly to defense production. So news like this exactly confirms what we have been talking about since the beginning of this war on Iran. We warned about this major depletion that America suffered in this war, which today puts it in a very difficult position, unable to continue in any war, unable to enter, any other possible war. So during these 6 weeks of war, America used a very large stockpile of ammunition, thousands of tons of bombs and missiles, and more, to the point of depleting the stock of a number of vital weapons. Like what, for example? For instance, a number of international reports talked about the depletion of the stock of Tomahawk cruise missiles, meaning that America was launching these missiles at Iran at a rate 9 times higher than the production rate. The same thing happened with air defense systems like THAAD missiles and Patriot missiles. All of this is ammunition that America has lost in this war, which is not really its own war to begin with. In fact, it's a war specifically for Israel and specifically for Netanyahu's personal interests. And all this American depletion of missiles and ammunition was without any notable results, meaning that none of the objectives of this war were achieved, and it had no impact on the Iranian regime. Iran has actually achieved a very significant accomplishment, because in just 40 days of this war, it exposed all the flaws of the American military to China, to Russia, and perhaps to any other party that might face America in the future. This means Iran has proven how weak the strongest army in the world is. Today, the most important element in confronting America is now resilience. Is that all? Any country that can withstand America for weeks will definitely come out victorious in the end. Because the American stockpile of weapons is very expensive, and more importantly, it's extremely limited. For example, the US produces only 90 THAAD missiles in an entire year. Just 90 missiles. So what happens if, for example, 1,000 ballistic missiles are intercepted? That would mean more than 10 years worth of production of THAAD missiles would be depleted. America would lose them in a month or even less than that. So now America wants to address this situation. It wants to replenish the stockpile that was depleted in this war as quickly as possible before it gets involved in any other war. And to replenish this stockpile quickly, instead of waiting for many years, maybe 10 or 20 years, it is looking for civilian companies that are ready to manufacture vehicles so they can produce ammunition instead of civilian cars. Because today, as everyone knows, the world is dominated by conflicts, and there is a major global shift happening that we could witness at any moment. America could face a major war against China, against Russia, or against any other country. How will America now confront these superpowers while it is suffering from this very serious depletion? Especially, let's not forget also that America has lost a large amount of ammunition, a big part of it lost in supporting Ukraine. Since 2022, it has been sending ammunition and missiles to Ukraine. And that's for more than 4 years. Then came the knockout blow to this stockpile, this war against Iran, so America found itself in a real predicament. That's why it's now looking for commercial partners to increase the production of ammunition and missiles, so it can make up for these losses in a shorter period than usual. The Pentagon recently requested a budget of up to $1.5 trillion. For what purpose? To increase the production capacity of missiles, drones, and so on. What's strange today is that this American decision to involve civilian companies in weapons production hasn't been seen in the US since World War II. During World War II, at that time, a group of private car manufacturing companies stopped producing cars and converted their factories to produce bombers, aircraft engines, and so on during that period. Today, because of the war with Iran that lasted only 40 days, America is heading in the same direction. This clearly confirms the extent of the depletion America suffered in that war. In just 40 days of war, so imagine if the war resumed for another 40 days, or if this war lasted for years. A whole year, or 2 years, or 3 years? When we talk about a major war, it also means it could last for years as well. Dear viewers, this war against Iran also confirmed how weak the American naval forces are, specifically the American warships. Because the defeat of the naval forces was not only in their inability to enter and storm the Strait of Hormuz, but it also became clear in their inability to impose a naval blockade on Iran, as is evident today. And the problem, dear viewers, is in the type of ships that the American naval forces possess. Today, when we talk about the US Navy, we find it ranked first in the world, but in terms of what? In terms of total tonnage of their ships, we're talking about more than 8 million tons. Between it and the second place in the world, which is China, there's a huge difference. From this perspective, China barely reaches 3 million tons. But what's the problem? Things aren't measured this way. The problem is that wars nowadays are no longer measured by tonnage, but by strategies. It is measured by the number of ships and the quality of those ships. Here we find that China ranks first in the world, with more than 1,000 ships. Russia is in second place with more than 740 ships, while America is in third place today with about 400 ships. For example, China has more than twice what America owns. Just imagine that America, the world's #1 superpower, does not have a single frigate today. What does the American naval force rely on? It relies on aircraft carriers, destroyers, and then submarines. And these ships are absolutely incapable of imposing any kind of naval blockade on all countries. Ships can serve as air defense systems, they can attack other ships in naval warfare, and they can carry out air raids against countries. But in modern wars like naval blockades and so on, this is no longer effective. For example, here we see that Iran, with very small naval boats that barely carry 2 soldiers, is able today to close the Strait of Hormuz. Why? Because they have a very large number of them, maybe thousands. Even if some of these small boats are bombed, they still have enough. They are cheap and not costly at all. Every time more of these vessels can be put into service, and let's not forget the small ships and submarines as well. The drone is remotely operated, which means Iran also has maybe hundreds, maybe thousands of them. War is not prepared for with the same capabilities as the opponent, not at all. There are special characteristics and different strategies. And Allah the Almighty says in His holy book, and prepare against them whatever you are able. So if it is, If America boasts about its wealth and massive destructive power, Iran today has proven that all this power can be rendered helpless in the face of very simple and low-cost weapons. So the beautiful thing about Iran, the thing is that it is a country that knows very well what its rights and responsibilities are. The most important thing Iran possesses today, the greatest power Iran has today, what is it? It's human capital. Bright minds. Since Iran became an Islamic republic, it has not marginalized these minds, even if they come from the lowest social ranks. Iran has studied its geographical location very well, its advantages, the advantages it possesses, and it has studied international laws thoroughly. So it came up with a set of weapons and strategies that are perfectly compatible with the capabilities it possesses. It built tunnels, created underground cities, developed ballistic missiles, advanced drone weaponry, manufactured thousands of these naval boats, and to this day it continues to work on developing weapons. The work is ongoing, meaning every day it still continues. Many international intelligence agencies may have underestimated these Iranian capabilities and resources. But this war changed all perceptions, changed everything, and truly proved that Iran has reached very high levels. At the very least, it strengthened its own sovereignty and proved to the whole world that it is a state that does not submit or bow to any party. And today, it has strong immunity to preserve this sovereignty. So all of this means there are factors that put Trump in real trouble today. He wants to achieve any kind of victory, even if it's a fake one. Today, he is begging Iran, begging through mediation, pleading with Iran just to give him any victory, even if it's imaginary. The important thing is that he gets out of this predicament. Therefore, even though there is a truce agreement and talk about negotiations and reaching an agreement soon, at the same time he is sending forces in an attempt to infiltrate Iran and in an attempt to steal from Iran and its enrichment and so on. The problem today is that he is defeated in this war and is in a predicament, and at the same time he wants to come out with an agreement in which Iran gives up all its conditions, as if Iran is the defeated party in this war. So this is a difficult equation today, an impossible one for resolving this crisis, especially since Trump is under a lot of pressure. Netanyahu, as everyone knows, Netanyahu does not allow Trump to make any agreement with Iran, and that's why Iran has big doubts about Trump's intentions in the second round of negotiations. Despite the Pakistani efforts and the attempts to sit down for a second round of negotiations, Iran still has major doubts. The Tasnim Iranian news agency said that the Iranian leadership is not fully convinced by the way the Americans are talking about this second round, which of course, according to what is being said, is expected to take place next Saturday and Sunday. And for this reason, they are convinced that the negotiations will not lead to any results, so they are preparing for the upcoming war. What's new this time is that Iran is asking America to prepare in advance, asking America to agree on a clear framework before any second round. Negotiations, Iran says without this, there will not be a second round. because there can't be negotiations. And America is still talking about conditions, not about them. These issues were on the table before this war, but now things have changed. So it's noticeable that Iran has benefited from previous experiences. It always benefits from any experience it goes through. And it's clear that today it stands in a position of strength, showing goodwill to reach an agreement. Iran is going along with this and negotiating with them. But at the same time, it is preparing for what is coming, and it remains steadfast in its positions and in the necessity of achieving the conditions it has announced. Therefore, when we talk about these negotiations, the situation is still truly ambiguous today because all scenarios are on the table. Trump is in trouble and we don't know which side he will lean toward. Will he lean toward Iran and make it a partner in the region, or will he lean toward Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu's personal interests? As a result, negotiations break down again. This truce, which is now close to ending, will be over, and we will return once more to war. All scenarios are on the table. We will see how things develop in the next few hours. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Peace be upon you and God's mercy and blessings. Until we meet again.